Hey, this is Dominic, and this is your home for the cutting-edge conversations on optimizing your personal performance, lighting up your sex life, and living a purpose-driven life of your own design.
These are the topics that Dominic and I have both struggled with in our own lives and still don't always get right. This is Brian. Welcome to the Man Amongst Men podcast.
Since you all seem to love the How to Take 10 Days Off of Masturbation episode, Brian and I thought we'd hit you with the next big challenge, 30 days off of porn. Now you might be asking, why would I torture myself like that? Well, here are just a smattering of the benefits that I and other men who have taken the challenge have experienced that you could expect for yourself by taking on the challenge. Electrified attraction with your partner, deepened connection with your partner, heightened sensations during sex like smells and feelings, sounds and tastes, heightened creativity and energy that has nothing to do with the sexual arena, but you can put back into your business, more power and endurance in the gym. Yes, you can actually increase your max weights and your endurance in the gym by channeling your sexual energy somewhere other than just a pure sexual physical outlet. Yes, these are all legit, and trust me, I took a 4-year hiatus from both porn and masturbation during my 4 years of Sex Addicts Anonymous. I'm not going to tell you to go that extreme, but I can tell you for certain that there have been benefits in my life that I still capitalize on today. Now, Napoleon Hill, author of Think and Grow Rich, one of my biggest mentors, and that book is the #1 best-selling personal achievement book of all time, he interviewed 25,000 men over a 25-year period. And he said that all of the most successful businessmen that he interviewed, Henry Ford, Roosevelt, Rockefeller, Thomas Edison, Charles Schwab, JP Morgan, all of them were highly sexed. And they were the ones who'd figured out how to use their sexual energy beyond just the physical act. He says, the majority of men dissipate their energies through overindulgence in physical expression of the emotion of sex, and the majority of men will never learn that the urge of sex has other possibilities, which far transcend in importance that of mere physical expression. Like I just mentioned, I took 4 years off of porn and masturbation during my 4 years of Sex Addicts Anonymous between 2013 and 2017, and that is precisely the time that I got bold enough to leave a successful and lucrative 15-year career in financial services, corner office in Times Square, to go and do what I truly loved. So in this episode, Brian and I give you the 3 steps to taking the 30-day no porn challenge. I will share with you what I learned from my 4 years off of no porn and no masturbation. We will review the 5 stages that every man goes through in his lifetime relationship with porn, which Brian and I did a deep dive in one of our earliest episodes called Dominic's 4 years off of porn. And then finally, how to choose doing this exercise either with masturbation over a 30-day period or to go cold turkey, no porn and no masturbation for the entire 30 days, which both Brian and I have committed to. Enjoy today's episode.
Dominic, I was reading the news yesterday and I saw a picture of Lamar Odom, who has been in the news a lot, but not so much recently. I was like, wonder why Lamar Odom is in the news. What did he do now? Yeah, what did he do now? And if you haven't heard about Lamar Odom's past, he was, I think, married or dating, married to a Kardashian. And he found himself eventually in a brothel in Las Vegas. And he was in there for, I think, 7 straight days.
Like, didn't leave the brothel?
Didn't leave the brothel. And almost then went to that. At the end of the 7 days, went to a hospital because he was...
It's the only place you can go after being in a brothel for 7 days.
Because part of the reason he was in the brothel for 7 days is he was hopped up on Viagra and cocaine.
Oh my God.
Which isn't great for the heart in general. So he had to go to the hospital. But so he's been on this journey since of finding himself and maybe even doing some of the inner work. I don't know. But I saw him in the news 2 days ago wondering what he did this time. And he had a shirt on, and the whole news article was about the shirt that he was wearing. It was a black shirt with a white box on it, and inside the white box had white lettering, and it said, "Porn kills love."
Porn kills love.
Porn kills love.
Uh-huh.
And we've heard a lot of stories.
That?
Well, we've heard a lot of stories, right, from guys. I remember Andrew Horn was one of the guys that talked about him and his wife, that she asked him not to watch porn anymore because she could feel that. She could feel that his energy was dissipated. And so does porn kill? I think porn can be a lot of things.
Yeah.
And like anything in life, it's how we take it in and how we want to have that as part of our lives or not part of our lives, but being conscious about it. So does porn kill loves? Sure. I think it in part can.
It could if you allow it to get to that stage. I mean, I think one of the things that you and I like to do when we have these conversations, we like to be balanced around. Porn is here to stay. Like porn's not going anywhere. Porn can also provide gateways into spicing up your sex life. It can give you ideas. Porn, if your partner's away for a period of time, or maybe like you have been without a sexual partner for a period of time, like porn provides a lot of those kinds of benefits too. And having been 4 years in Sex Addicts Anonymous, I saw a lot of guys walk through the doors who couldn't stop watching porn at work, who were addicted to porn, or at least compulsively consuming porn to an extent where it was actually affecting their lives. There were plenty of men in there who couldn't have normal sex with their partners because they'd pornified their partners with all the stuff they'd watched. So absolutely, it can have an effect on your ability to have love. But I think that someone like a Lamar Odom, who's still very early on in his recovery process, is not where we want to be taking our fucking cues from on porn.
Right. Just only an interesting t-shirt to start this conversation, not a model citizen when it comes to this sort of work. And Dominic, something that stuck out to me when we talked about this topic last time was your definition of what an addiction was. And it was when we tell ourselves we're going to do something and we can't help but not do that, I think was
it was something along those lines. It's like, I remember reading this in the book Irresistible by Adam Alter, the book of how technology is keeping us hooked, like something along those lines. And he said that when we no longer want that thing, but we need it. Like, I don't want to keep doing this thing, but I need it. Otherwise, like some sort of awful pain. And for me, it was, I would make promises to myself. Like, I'm not going to sex someone. I'm not going to watch porn anymore. I'm not going to cheat on my partner. And then each time I would make that commitment, I would break it. And no other area of my life did I have that, in any other area of my life. So I had some shit that I needed to get my arms around. And I know that, like, from us running the Discerning Dick live event series here in New York City, we've had plenty of conversations with men and women around porn. There's a lot of vilification of porn, rightfully so, we get it. But there are a lot of men who say they're consuming it more than they want to. They just don't know how to get their arms around it. So that's why, fellas, as you're listening to this episode, I'm really glad that you tuned in, because with a title along the lines of like how to take 30 days off of porn, and you're actually listening to this and potentially interested in taking it seriously, we applaud you for that, because it can seem like a Herculean task. I know that when I took 4 years off of porn, which was not really like I didn't put a time frame around it, but when I entered Sex Addicts Anonymous, one of the first things that they made us stop doing was no porn, no masturbation. I committed to that. I lived it for 4 fucking years. A lot of things in my life changed for the better, like life-changing stuff. And I don't throw that around lightly. And I can tell you what that means in my life in a few moments. But for you to even have the experience of taking 30 days off of porn, you could learn some stuff about yourself. You could light up your sex life in a way that could carry those benefits with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, because for me, the big question is, well, why?
Why would I do this?
Why would I do that? Why would I take 30 days off? I've seen porn most of my life. I've been masturbating daily most of my life. So why? Why would I do it?
All right. Well, let's start with one of like the expert of all experts, at least in my life. Like, my number one guide is the author Napoleon Hill. And if you've ever read Think and Grow Rich, he's got this amazing chapter on sex transmutation. Sex transmutation, like how to take your sexual energy and turn it into something other than just some physical expression of sexuality.
Sex transmutation sounds like something kinky. I don't think that's
like
what we're
an underground dungeon or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let me give you the background on Napoleon. You've probably heard me say this a million times if you've been listening to this podcast. Napoleon Hill, he was the pioneer of personal achievement. And he grew up during the Great Depression era. He interviewed 25,000 people at the end of their lives who felt like they had lived a life of regret. And he mined their secrets to find out like what caused them to live a life of regret. But he also interviewed 500 of the world's most successful people who at the time were people like Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, the Roosevelts, Rockefellers, Charles Schwab, JP Morgan, Wrigley, Gillette, like the who's who. And what he found was that all of the most successful, most accomplished leaders in the world were highly sexed individuals. Highly sexed, except the difference was they learned how to use their sexual energy and harness it in a way that they controlled it for power, for creation and achievement, versus the way that most men use it, which is actually being used by it. It's like being dragged around by wild horses versus putting, leashes on them and then organizing it in a direction that you want to take it. And there's a few passages from this book that we want to read for you. He said, "My scientific research has disclosed these two significant facts. Number one, the men of greatest achievement are men with highly developed sex natures, men who have learned the art of sex transmutation." And transmutation is basically taking your sexual energy and using it for something other than fucking or beating off. Number two, the men who have accumulated great fortunes and achieved outstanding recognition in literature, art, industry, architecture, and the professions were motivated by the influence of a woman. So this was something I know that you were passionate about talking about before. You were like, I was like, maybe I don't read that passage. And no, let's not hide from it.
Let's not hide from this. This is huge. And I find this true in my life. And I know, Dominic, you've talked on this subject before. We have spent ridiculous amounts of time trying to impress women.
Inordinate.
How we dress, how we look, what we say, everything else. And you know what? It is a beautiful thing if understood and harnessed in the right way. Like, it is a powerful aphrodisiac, a motivating
force. I mean, for me, success financially is something that I want because it would help me to be financially free. I can make my own choices. I do appreciate being appreciated by other guys, no question. There's been no driving force in my life so powerful as like winning the affection or respect of women. It's just how I'm engineered. And by the way, this is probably a good point to pause on this conversation to recognize that we are two heterosexual guys having a conversation typically directed at heterosexual men because that is our orientation. That's our life experience. We also know that many of our listeners are not heterosexual, that have very different sexual orientations. And we welcome that amazingly. Like we welcome that. And Brian and I speak from our own perspective. We do not consider ourselves to be experts. So that's why you're going to hear a lot of women talk in this kind of conversation.
Right. And the principles apply, right? This internal work is all the same regardless of our sexual orientation. We're just talking about the feeling of draw, the feeling of attractive, the motivating factors that come with that, regardless of what we're attracted to.
Right on. I mean, a couple of my sponsees in Addicts Anonymous were gay men, and like these principles absolutely applied. And so we had a lot of these similar conversations. So let me take it back to Napoleon Hill again. There's this amazing paragraph in the chapter 11. And if you've never read his book, if you don't have it on you, you can actually just Google chapter 11 Napoleon Hill and find this online. There's a section in there that he says, why men seldom succeed before the age of 40. And by the way, Napoleon Hill wrote this like during the Great Depression era. So you're talking about like the 20s and 30s, 1920s and 30s. This study, these are his words. This study disclosed the fact that the major reason why the majority of men who succeed do not begin to do so before the age of 40 to 50 is their tendency to dissipate their energies through overindulgence in physical expression of the emotion of sex. The majority of men never learn that the urge of sex has other possibilities, which far transcend in importance that of mere physical expression. The majority of those who make this discovery do so after having wasted many years at a period when the sex energy is at its height, right? Like when you're 20s, 30s.
Many years.
Prior to the age of 40 to 50. And then this is usually followed by noteworthy achievement.
Could you imagine, Dominic, if you, Dominic, at the age of, let's say, 20, knew...
With the sex energy that I had at the age of 20.
Exactly. And you knew, you're like, oh, hello, sex energy. There you are.
I'm going to go build something with you.
I'm ready to transmute you. like, as awkward as that is, how productive would have you been?
I would have been fucking unstoppable, man.
Oh my goodness.
Let me drill this down to my life experience. And again, you're talking about someone he's studied the best of the best. Some of those names I mentioned before, like these are people whose names will carry on for generations. And he's talking about them and the way that they've harnessed sexual power. when I had my 4 years of Sex Addicts Anonymous recovery, for that period of time, no porn for 4 years, no masturbation. And I was a guy who at a minimum was daily and most times 2 to 3 times a day masturbation, like just dissipating my energy because it was the only way that I knew how to navigate my emotions. And porn was just like an accessory to all of that. I didn't even really think about it, just kind of watched it on the regular. During those 4 years, when I didn't have that outlet for navigating, like for just spewing that energy out, when I would be sitting in my apartment alone, just thinking about what I wanted to do with my life, I started to have these like grand visions of leaving behind a corner office in Times Square where I was, like a young guy making a lot of money for a corporate organization that appreciated me, that I had a big future there if I wanted, and the comforts and safeties and securities of like knowing that my track record spoke for itself. Like all that stuff was aligned, like in line. But there was this other part of me, a bigger part of me that wanted to go out and make my own way in the world, to design my life. And I had those dreams before, maybe like 5 years earlier, but I would just like get wound up by that. And then I would beat off and I would like let that go. So at that point in time when I didn't have anywhere that I could take that energy and I wasn't able to log on, like I can't tell you how many times I wanted to log on and look at porn or like I wanted to beat off, but like without that outlet, I was forced to find another outlet for it. And so instead of just sitting around in my apartment, I actually got up and started walking around, or I would go leave my apartment and I would start to actually think more deeply about these bold visions.
And this is without the knowledge that you have now. You didn't know what was going on.
I didn't know.
Right? All you knew was I'm going to stop the behavior of sex and masturbating because I'm in Sex Addicts Anonymous.
Right. And I wanted to be an achiever in that respect. So like that kind of, like I kind of
kickstarted you in this direction. And now with the knowledge, you're like, oh, that's
why it worked. Yeah.
I was transmutating.
I was transmuting without even knowing it. And that's the thing. So during that period of time, like midway through my 4 years, I had that epiphany of, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave this 15-year corporate career behind and I'm going to start this new business. And my energy that would have been spent like going down rabbit holes of porn or whacking off was now spent thinking about envisioning that future, was now spent overcoming the fears of leaving behind an old world and bringing forward a new world. And I firmly believe that it was that period of time where I transmuted that sex energy that allowed me to unleash myself from the shackles.
And if you're listening to this right now and you totally get what Dominic's saying, great. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't really know what he's saying, just imagine this for a moment. You know that feeling that you have when you're done masturbating and you're cleaning up and you're a little bit depleted, you're a little bit less energy? Well, just imagine at that point if you didn't masturbate. Now do that over a 4-year period.
Right.
And see what builds up.
No depletion, right? It's just like energy, vitality.
You've used it, Dominic. You've used the analogy of like a shook up bottle of Coke.
Yes.
Right? And that's true. It's a taut feeling. It's an energizing feeling.
Yeah. And by the way, to that point, there were plenty of times over that 4-year period where I felt like I wanted to fucking tear down a wall because I didn't know what to do with that energy. Like it was a shook up bottle. I didn't have, like in some cases, a place to put it. And I didn't know I was transmuting my sexual energy. I wasn't intentional around it. I gritted my teeth many a time. And it was when I found this thing, a why, like a why to put the energy towards, that really allowed me to harness that. And a lot of those shook up bottles of Coke feeling went away. And it was much more of an aligned energy. And that's why we're having this conversation with you is, if you're going to take on this 30-day challenge, you're going to find yourself in a place that maybe you haven't before, with all sorts of energy, maybe frustrated, maybe frenetic, maybe manic in some cases. And we're going to give you some tools on how to harness that energy in a powerful way.
And one last thing, if you're still not believing, you're still not like, what are you talking about, Dominic?
Then go fuck yourself.
No, don't go fuck yourself.
Yeah, actually, wait a minute. That's the opposite. Yeah.
Right. No, but if you're kind of like, okay, I understand sexual energy, but transmutating? Is that
transmutation? Yeah.
Transmutating it into this whole creative. Then Dominic created a new business and he left his company and had all this. Like, if you don't believe that, understood. Just think about how many times in the workplace, maybe you've been in a workplace where you've been attracted to a coworker, or maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's somebody at school, where that energy wanted to create. There's a lot of infidelity that happens in the workplace because people confuse this energy of creation. And that's really what this energy is. It can be used, the exact same energy can be used for different types of creation.
Yeah.
And the creation that we often confuse this for is that it has to be sexual.
Yes.
But what you did, Dominic, in transmutating, still not sure if that word.
Yeah, I mean, you can think of it as transforming. It's like this is similar kind of, transmuting.
What you used was okay, I'm not going to go down the path of sexual because I was told I shouldn't do this because of Sex Addicts Anonymous. I'm going to use this for something different, even if you weren't doing it intentionally.
Yes.
So if you're not there in terms of like, well, what is this sexual energy? How is it used for something else? Just think about in the workplace, in places that you've been before, what are those areas where you have felt attraction? And you can recognize that like, ooh, maybe I want to fuck them. But you also can create with that human being.
Right. It's energizing.
It's energizing. Yeah.
Now, let's maybe even make this more practical for many of our listeners, which is around like specifically porn. Because what we've been talking about with transmuting sexual energy, that's like talking about not coming, right? That's like taking your sexual energy. Let's talk about porn specifically. Some of the benefits that you can expect to receive from taking a 30-day period off of porn. And I can talk to you about like till I'm blue in the face, how these showed up in my experience.
You can talk to him until you're blue in the balls. There it is.
She saw that coming.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead with the coming part too.
Nope.
That's one of the like you just can't like there's too many landmines. Yeah, there's just too. Oh my god, edging too. All right, it's unavoidable. When I entered Sex Addicts Anonymous for the first 90 days or so, I was not allowed to be with my partner. Like we had to kind of I was in a relationship at the time. When we first reunited again, this was after 3 months of like no porn, no masturbation, no sex. When we started having sex again, when there was no porn, I started noticing that a lot of these like little sensations that I'd forgotten about came back. Like I could smell the scent of her skin and her hair. When she touched me, I could feel her fingers on my body with an electricity that seemed to be dulled when I was beating off a lot or when I was watching porn. Her femininity, her humanity, just like the woman in front of me, she didn't compete with anyone else that I was watching in porn for all of that time. So like her beauty was just radiant. I didn't have to play these pornographic scenarios in my mind to stay interested or excited or, to use like a thing that I'd seen in porn to make me orgasm at the moment that I wanted to orgasm. It was like pure connection with her and the senses were heightened. And I found that over a period of time, like porn couldn't compete with her at all because I was so connected with her over that period. So another one of the benefits, if you have a partner, and we realize a lot of our listeners are maybe not partnered up right now, but if you have a partner, it's a tremendous way to reconnect with your partner and feel her or him in a new way.
Yeah, we hear a lot of guys saying that they have to visualize what they've seen in porn or create a porn scene in their mind while they're having sex with their partner. And there couldn't be anything further away from what sex is actually meant to do, which is connect. Than that.
Yeah. I mean, she feels it on some level, right? And when she's being thrust into all these weird positions and she sees it, feels it without like your eye contact. One of the things that women tell us all the time is dying for eye contact, like during sex. And most guys are not looking at their partner in the eyes because they're off somewhere in some fantasy in their head, right? Or they're just doing another position because they saw it in porn. So like this is your opportunity to create that connection again. For the guys who don't have a regular partner right now, well, then this is your shot to actually try something new. One of the paths that we could suggest going down over this 30 days is if you choose to continue masturbating during this 30 days. So let's just say like you're not into necessarily holding on to the sexual energy, but you're just interested in taking 30 days off of porn and you're going to beat off at some point. Then can you masturbate not thinking about porn that you've already seen? Can you masturbate and fantasize about maybe a partner that you've been with or creating a new fantasy? One of the things that we found from guys is like, they're like, holy shit, it's been forever since I've masturbated to anything but porn. And when I've tried to fantasize about something, it's actually been porn or I don't even know what to make up.
I feel like when we ask guys what they actually want when it comes to sex, they're like, I don't know, 2 girls at the same time.
Right.
Like they come up with, they have a default answer of what they think that they should like. And what you'll notice is when you stop porn, but you are masturbating, if you have to get creative, right? Creative energy again,
right?
You can come up with and you start to figure out what you actually might enjoy.
Right.
And sex becomes a lot deeper. It becomes a lot richer as opposed to just getting off.
That's a really good point because like a lot of guys, and I know I'm included in this too, when I do go to say like a porn site, like an aggregator, like an X videos or something like that, I don't necessarily know exactly what I'm looking for. The stuff just pops up, right? I mean, and all of a sudden you're flooded with a whole bunch of different things and you just go down the rabbit hole there. So you don't actually take the moment or time to think about what is it that I want. It's just thrust at you. This is different. Like, can you in your mind envision a scenario? And by the way, if it's difficult for you for the first few days, that is feedback. Like that is feedback to let you know, like, okay, you haven't really chosen your path and stick with it.
I did this several years ago, Dom, and I did no porn, but I was masturbating. And I started to come up with these creative scenarios. I started to realize, oh, these are situations I might enjoy.
Wait, so you did no porn and you were masturbating?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yes. And I remember I was sexting with a woman back then. And I played out over texting the scenario that I had created in my head.
Yeah.
And she was incredibly turned on.
Nice.
She's like, where did this come from? Like, did you see it at a scene? I'm like, no, I just made it up. And she really enjoyed that. And I really enjoyed that because it was coming from me.
From you.
From what I actually wanted, as opposed to just, to your point, going onto a porn site and something being thrown in my face.
Totally. Yeah. We had a guy in our audience at one of our events who took a period of time off of porn and masturbation. He ended up getting like serious headaches. Like he ended up getting migraines. Withdrawal symptoms. I mean, I never had anything like that going through mine. And and our listeners know, like I was a pretty intense user of masturbation and porn. And so for me, it was like not a problem. The biggest challenge was for me when I did my abstinence period was just not knowing where to put that energy. And we're going to give you 3 steps on how to do 30 days off of porn. We already kind of told you what to do if you're planning on not watching porn and masturbating. So it's like, just figure out what your fantasies are, go down that road. Really what we're talking to is the person who's interested in doing 30 days of no porn and also no masturbation.
I'm trying to figure out which one I want to commit to.
Okay. You don't have to do it right now.
Okay.
Maybe by the end of this conversation. Good. Before we dive into those 3 steps, I think it'd be useful to revisit just quickly the porn episodes that we did, the model that we put together in one of our earliest episodes on porn. They're titled Why Dominic Took 4 Years Off of Porn. You can go back into, I think it's probably our first 10 episodes somewhere in there. There's a 2-part series on that. And there are 5 stages that every man goes through in his lifelong journey and relationship with porn. Most men get stuck at the 3rd stage. And these are the 5 Ds of porn. So I'll hit these really quickly just to give you a framework and then go back and listen to those podcasts because there's a much deeper dive on it. Stage number 1 is discovery, right? Like, how did you discover porn? I'm a 40-year-old man. I discovered porn as an 8-year-old playboy.
Yeah, it sounds something like this.
Yeah, it's like boobies, like your first time. However, a 20-year-old today discovers porn most likely on high-speed streaming internet and could have seen a gangbang.
And realistically, Dom, it's a lot younger than 20.
I'm saying someone who's 20 years old today, when he was 8 years old or whatever, he's probably seeing it on high-speed streaming internet. Right. So how you discover it makes a big difference because there was a speed with which that information came to us. Like it was just kind of like a picture.
Ours was paper-based and 2D.
Analog porn, right? And then now someone else is being intravenously fed that as like an 8-year-old. So it's coming in much quicker during those chemically important years.
Intravenously. God, that was graphic.
It's almost like that, right? Goodness. It's in there.
Yeah.
So the first stage is how you discover porn. The second stage is downloading. Like, what are the messages you're downloading as you're watching porn? And this is how you shape your worldview, right? So if you're learning that, sex, most people are watching porn before they actually have a sexual experience. I know that was the case for me.
For a long time.
For years, usually. What do dick sizes look like? Like, how long are you supposed to have sex? What are you supposed to do to the woman? And she's always, the submissive one.
What is she supposed to do?
Right. What is she supposed to do? How she's supposed to be loving it and responding to it and all the things, right? So these are the messages that you are downloading unconsciously that you bring into every sexual interaction with your partner, an expectation with your partner. The third stage, which is where 95% of men get stuck for most of their life, is the drifting stage. It's like you're just watching porn. You don't know why you're watching it. You haven't really consciously thought about it. Some of the key characteristics of drift are escalation. So what you are watching now is like, much more intense than what you were watching 3 years ago, because what you were watching 3 years ago can't get you off anymore. Kind of like how a drug addict needs to up their dosage. So things are more and more extreme. And then what we're talking about with this exercise is taking you into the 4th and 5th stages where most men will never go, which are disrupting. That's the 4th stage, disrupting your patterns. And then the 5th stage is designing a new relationship with porn. So the 4th stage is really this 30 days off of porn, right? So if you disrupt your habits and your patterns with porn by taking a temporary abstinence period, 30 days, the idea here is to help you understand why you're doing what you're doing, to give you alternative options and feedback on what could be an alternative option for you. And then the 5th stage is after you've completed this 30 days is to design your new relationship with porn. For example, after 4 years of being off of porn, I decided to go back on. Like this was back in 2017 or something like that. I said to myself, as a man who wasn't in a relationship, who didn't have anyone on the horizon, like porn was something that I wanted to use every once in a while for stimulation. I also want to use porn that I know is sourced from a perspective where like the women are being treated well. So there's like specific porn sites that I subscribe to, like lustery.com. Or I'll watch women who I know have been in the business for a while who are astute enough to like not be taken advantage of. I'm not watching a lot of younger women porn who come in and get like ripped off by the system. So I consciously designed it in a way where it feels good for me at a frequency that feels good for me. We want you to have that same experience.
You feel like you're in control. You're doing it with the discernment of what you want.
That's right.
Yeah, as opposed to just happening.
That's right.
And a good indicator to think, well, what stage you're probably asking yourself right now, like, what stage am I in? Right.
Yeah.
And one way to think about that is like, do you know what your habits are right now without even thinking about it? How long have you been going to the same website? Is this just like waking up, brushing your teeth? Like, is it just routine at this point? Do you know why you masturbate?
Right.
If you don't have like really clear answers on those, more than likely you're in that drift stage.
Which is where most guys are. It's all good. Right. But like now.
And also, I've been out of drift. I've also gone back into drift.
It's inevitable.
Right. This isn't just once you level up, you're there. It's a constant check-in. And so what this 30-day challenge does is it allows us to disrupt what that drift is and gives us a chance. So I've done a 10-day challenge before. I did that several months ago. And now I'm going to do this one with everybody that's listening to this for 30 days.
Yeah, right on. Because you figured out which one you're doing?
I'm ready to get out of drift.
Okay, so you're going to do no porn for 30 days. Have you decided no porn and no masturbation yet, or do you not know? Still uncommitted.
Still uncommitted, yeah.
Will you commit by the end of the episode?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Then let's go into the 3 steps of this process to help you succeed in taking your 30 days off of porn. And this is for the person who's assuming that they're taking 30 days off of porn and doing no masturbation also, but you can do this if you choose to masturbate as well. So step number 1 is define your why. The why you're taking this 30-day challenge on. Okay. So I'll let you go in a second here, Brian, but like for me, a why would be.
Are you doing the challenge too, Dom?
I suppose I'm going to do the challenge. I roped into this, didn't I?
Beautiful.
Yeah. Okay. This actually won't be that hard.
We got to
for
practice
me.
if we're going to preach it.
Yeah. This won't actually be that. The no masturbation will be a challenge for me, but like I will do the no porn and no masturbation.
Oh, okay. Wow. You're already committed.
I'm committed.
You jumped right in full 2 feet full deep end.
You know why? Like, cause I know the benefits of it.
It's fair.
I know. And I'm actually in a heightened stage of creation right now.
Great.
For my business.
So what's your why then in this?
Okay. So let's use my why in this then. You know, some of the big stuff that I have in my mind for the future of men's work, you know, how many people that I want to affect, how many people I want to affect together. I'm in the process of putting together a mastermind for men for this next year. It's going to be a highly curated group of men who are interested in doing inner work on themselves. This is most I'll say on that. And what I could use is real clarity and a lot of energy, because I know that some of this stuff is going to require focus, dead ends, rejection, confusion, and to have my best possible fucking energy to build this thing that is going to be the foundation for my next 10 years worth of work. That's a pretty big why. And if all I need to do is commit to 30 days of no porn and no beating off to know that I'm going to get some of my best energy as a result of it, that seems like a no-brainer for me.
Okay. So if you're listening to this podcast, if you're like, well, that sounds great, Dominic, like go build your empire by not jerking off, but you are maybe less clear on your why. This is step one, right? Know your why of why you're doing this. If your why is really just simply because I'm curious and I want to know if I can do it,
that's enough.
That's enough. That is a why. In and of itself, that is a why. It is enough. And Dominic said right before he mentioned the world conquering stuff, he mentioned he can do this because he knows the benefits. You at this point may not know the benefits.
Yeah, you don't.
And that's okay. Because if you're just the curiosity to take on this challenge alone to see if you can do it is all you need.
That's huge, man. And by the way, we've challenged people to do 30 days before. We've never done a full podcast on it, but I've had guys who say yes, they come back to me and they're lamenting the fact they only made it 17 days. And I was like, what was your previous high? And they were like, 24 hours. Right. And I'm like, well, fuck yeah, dude. Like, what did you learn? And then they're like, well, I learned that I thought about it every single day. And maybe there were some days that I didn't think about it, but then on day 17, this event happened. I got triggered at work. And then I needed to come home and do that thing. And I found that it was the place I go when I'm emotionally worked up. And I'm like, congratulations. You just learned something really big about yourself. Get back on the wagon, see if you can finish days 18 through 30 and then call it a win. You know what I mean? So yes, bingo, the why could be as simple as, can I do this? And also wanting to know, what grip does porn have over me so far? Another why could be, what would sex be like with my partner if I don't have this for 30 days? It could be, do I still have my own fantasies? I want to learn what kind of fantasies I have when I'm not relying on porn to show me. There's a lot of
So one of my whys for doing this, Dom, is I tend to masturbate more when I'm avoiding something.
Same.
And so I want to figure out more deeply, what is that I'm avoiding? I want those triggers to actually be triggered so that I do, let's call it the work, whatever that thing is, as opposed to just masturbating and forgetting about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And these are things that you are attuned to, I'm attuned to because we've done this work before. Okay. I think we've covered that sufficiently. Okay. So step one, define your why. This is the thing that the defining your why, you're always going to come back to it over the course of the 30 days because the first few days will be kind of exciting, maybe even easy. And then you're going to get back into life. The honeymoon energy is going to be over and you're going to want to rationalize breaking the streak. If you can get really clear on the why and tie it back to that will help keep you on course. Stage number 2 is anticipate the triggers that send you into that porn cycle.
I love, one of my favorite questions to ask guys is, oh, cool. So you masturbate. Why do you masturbate? And they're like, what? Why are you? It's a ridiculous question.
Yeah.
And it's because we don't think about it. We don't actually know. It's a very hard question to answer because we don't really know why we masturbate other than the fact that, I don't know, because it fucking feels
awesome.
good.
Yeah.
It feels good. I've been doing it since I was 6. Whatever. Stop asking stupid questions. And so what this is, stage 2 here, or step 2, is anticipating what the triggers are that you might run into.
The triggers meaning the things that happen that you then go to porn to help you solve that problem or to escape from that situation, right? So triggers for me, right? If I feel alone, if I feel overwhelmed by work, if I feel stressed out, if I feel bored.
That's funny, Dominic. My triggers are hard dick.
But there's something that happens before the hard dick sometimes, right? For me...
Something triggered the hard dick, you're saying.
Well, I only speak to my own personal experience, but it's
Speak to your own dick.
Speaking to my dick, it's the ultimate and the quickest and most effective state changer. If I'm in a state of overwhelm, if I'm in a state of pissed offness or resentment, then a guarantee to get my mind off of that is I can quickly go to porn. It's efficient. And most guys are looking for efficiency, looking for a quick energy change. If I'm trying to do something complex and I can't fucking focus, then all of a sudden, we've talked about this before. All of a sudden, you'll find yourself rubbing your dick. You're like, where's that coming from?
Yeah, all of a sudden, working from home,
right?
All of a sudden it's like, wait, why am I doing that right now?
And it's like, now there's a situation,
right.
And then I go into porn. And this, what we want you to do is, and you're never going to be able to anticipate all of your triggers. This exercise will illuminate what your triggers are. You'll get much clearer on that. I didn't know that anxiety, overwhelm, loneliness, boredom, frustration, complexity were my precursors to diving into porn and then masturbation. Stopping it for a period of time allowed me to have that insight.
Yep.
Okay. So anticipate your triggers. And if you can do that before you start this, then you will have a much higher success rate of staying the course, because we want to take you to step 3, which is after you've anticipated your triggers, design your alternatives.
Yeah. Because inevitably you will be triggered.
You will want to watch porn.
You will want to watch porn. I can promise you, I guarantee you over a 30-day period, there will be some point where you want to masturbate and you want to watch porn.
No question.
Promise.
Right.
Yes.
And one of the things that you need to do is like prepare for that in advance. So we were talking about this before. We have 3 recommended steps underneath designing your alternatives. So first, in that moment where you feel the trigger and it's like, oop, I'm about to log on, watch some porn. What's that first step that we want them to take?
And this is dick hard already?
It could be dick hard already or before.
Yeah.
Like
well,
for me,
let's call this like DEFCON. This is DEFCON 5, DEFCON 4. What are the highest DEFCON is?
I think DEFCON 5 is the worst.
That's the worst. Okay, let's call it DEFCON 5. Well, let's just say we're at that point.
Dick hard stage.
So first of all, congratulate yourself. Because you've now recognized, before you logged on, before you started to jerk off, you've recognized something that you probably haven't recognized prior to this, and you now have a choice.
This is what Viktor Frankl talks about,
right.
with the space between stimulus and response. And I thought that he would probably be proud to know that his wisdom is now being applied to not
it's
whacking off the
transmuted
21st.
into jerking off. Yes. Yeah. So one, congratulate yourself. And I say that genuinely, like, congratulate yourself, because this is the first step you actually recognize before jumping onto porn or jerking off that, oh, that's right, I'm taking an abstinence from this. Okay, cool. And then just take a deep breath.
Yeah, the first step under this is really taking a deep breath. Yeah. So Brian's saying, like, to be aware of the congratulations, you caught yourself, but the first action step is
literally just take a deep breath. And this isn't some mystical sort of experience, but the reality is that your energy, your creative energy that we actually want to transmute at this point is located directly at your dick.
Yeah, and we think about this for a second. Like, if you find yourself in this situation, if you can create awareness in that moment through the breath, you'll recognize that, like, all of your energy and focus is now narrowed to that region where your cock is. You forget, like, what your feet feel like. You don't know what your head feels like. All of your energy and focus is like concentrated in that one small area. And for some of us, it's bigger than that.
Wow.
And by breathing, the breath circulates your energy away from that area.
If you want to do the advanced version of more than just a breath, actually visualize, think about breathing from that area. Like, if you were taking a breath in, it's actually coming in through that area. And then as you breathe in, it's coming up through your spine, right? Up through your body. And if you just visualize that, as ridiculous as that might sound right now, just do that. And I recommend doing it twice, and bring it up. Like, it's almost like that energy is coming through your spine, and you will notice that energy will start to dissipate.
And it's not ridiculous, because this is the same technique that you use when you're having sex with a partner that allows you the control of circulating your energy so you don't pop off early. A lot of guys coming early.
Got it.
Right? Like, so,
like premature ejaculation,
or just
poor performance.
Yeah. I mean, or just coming before you want, right? Like, or like, right. Like you're like, I want to hang out. Or you're distracting yourself by thinking of, what is it? Margaret Thatcher naked on a cool day playing baseball, something like that, as Austin Powers would say. And instead of actually having to distract yourself, if you can just start to breathe and circulate that energy that's concentrated in your cock and bring it through the rest of your body, you now have control over when you want to orgasm.
It is literally, quite literally, a superpower that I wish I knew 20 years ago.
I wish I knew, along with the transmutation part.
All the transmutations.
All right. So we now have the breath. That this is like step 1 under designing.
So now we were at DEFCON 5. We've now taken a couple breaths. We recognize that we congratulated ourselves. Yay, I didn't go look at porn. Take a couple breaths. Let the energy start to circulate in the body.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Now we're at DEFCON like maybe 3.
Hopefully down a few notches. Yeah. And now this second step under the category of design and alternative is getting clear on what preempted, right? Like getting clear on what preempted that reaction in the first place.
Yep.
This is where you get really precise around your triggers. It's like, oh God, I wanted to dive into this. I wanted to go back to porn tube or whatever, dick's hard or whatever it is. What were the series of events or thoughts or experiences that caused you to end up in that?
Yeah, this is one of the more exciting parts because this is where you actually get to start to answer that question of why. Like, why do I want to masturbate right now?
Right this moment.
It's 12:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'm writing an email. Why am I horny right now? Right? You can quite literally start to figure it out in this moment because you're taking that pause.
Yeah. It's like I'm writing this email, but I couldn't find the right words, or this is like a complex situation, or it's a touchy situation. Now I'm feeling stuck. I just want to get rid of this. Or it could be, man, I've got 75 messages that I need to return. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Or my partner and I just had a blow up and I just need to, I want to disappear from that. This is your moment after you've taken your breath to ask the question, what preempted this?
Right.
Okay. The third and final step under this is now that you've taken your breath, now that you've gotten clear on what preempted this, it's what do I want to do with this energy now? Because if you're
starting to harness it, now you're starting to transmute it.
Yes. Instead of being dragged around by your energy, like wild horses pulling in all different directions, it's like, aligning them and putting the leashes on them so that you can direct it where you want it to go. And this is what Napoleon Hill talks about with like the most successful leaders. They learned how to harness that energy versus dissipating it. So where do you go from here? Right. And in some cases, it may be, I'm going to take this to the gym. You know what I mean? I'm just going to go and work this stuff out and then like use that and have an extra special workout because I have all this extra energy.
Real special workout.
Let the boner go down before you
safety clause. Yeah.
Yeah.
The lawyers
for your own protection. Yeah. But let's say it's like 10 p.m. on a Tuesday night. Like
more sit-ups, less push-ups. I'm sorry, I can't stop. This is
you going to keep going with this?
No, yeah. Keep moving.
10 p.m. at night. Like, what do you do with that energy? Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I know in those situations where I've been like in that before, like sometimes I'll need to get out of bed. I'll need to walk around. I'll need to do more of those breaths until like I can calm myself down to a place where it's like, okay. And then I'll just change my thinking. I'll focus on something else.
And this is why step 1 is, why are you doing this? Now, in Dominic's case, he was very clear on his why. So he might take that energy, look at his to-do list and be like, great, I'm going to go knock out these things, right? And that energy will start to move towards that. If you're someone that says like, I don't really know why I'm doing this, I'm just curious, that's cool. You've done enough at this point. Just start to notice what happens.
Right.
Start to notice where your mind goes. Start to notice like what you start to focus on. That's all that really needs to happen in this moment. Yeah.
And if you have something specific that you think you can transmute this energy towards, this would be really helpful in this moment. So if it's creating something, maybe there's art, maybe you're writing.
Journaling would be a good one here.
Journaling is a good one too. Yep. And
if you literally just wrote about the experience that just happened, well, I got a hard on because I was writing an email. I don't know why. It wasn't a sexy email, but I did, and I stopped. I'm proud of myself. And that's all you wrote in your journal. Your dick should at least be halfway down by now.
And I'll tell you what, I think the last thing I would want to mention on this is if you do have a partner that you're with, make sure that you are not making her or him responsible for your sexual energy during this period of time. So you could easily then like push all of the sexual needs from porn and masturbation onto her or whoever. And that's not fair to them. So this is really about you learning how to harness your energy, to transmute it. We're not saying don't have sex, but we're also saying be mindful of like, just be aware of like pushing that on them. Fair.
And if you're doing this, the challenge I would give you, if just in case you need a challenge on top of the challenge, is do keep a journal of how you're feeling. Because I'll be really curious. I'm going to do this too. I'll keep this in my daily journal. I'll be really curious how you feel after the steps that we just went through versus when you just masturbated looking at porn before.
Right.
Because my guess is, my feeling is that you're going to feel a lot of really powerful energy, not the frenetic energy that we've just.
Some of us feel, sometimes.
Yeah.
All right, let's do the summary of these. So for your 30 days off of porn, the 3 major steps are: number 1, define your why. Get clear on why you're doing this. That's going to be really important because as the days trudge on, you're going to want to, on some cases, give up unless you know why you're doing this. Number 2, in advance of this 30 days, anticipate the triggers that may cause you to go down that rabbit hole of watching porn. And then number 3, design alternatives for when those triggers come up. And the protocol that'll happen, because inevitably you are going to get triggered during this 30 days. The 3-step protocol for that is take a deep breath, understand what preempted that feeling that you have, and then ask yourself the question of what do I want to do with this energy now? And Brian just gave you a really good example of journaling. I talked about working out or maybe getting something to do done on your to-do list.
Yeah, it's exciting 30-day challenge. And if you want to find out who your true friends are, who you really trust, let somebody know that you're doing this.
Get them on board too.
Get them on board if they'll do it. And at the very least, check in with them to let them know how you're doing. If you don't have somebody in your life that you're comfortable doing that with,
you can do it with us.
Feel free to email Dominic and I, and we are happy to be on this journey with you.
I would be remiss if I didn't circle back and put you to task on, have you decided for your 30 days of no porn where you are with masturbation?
I'm going no porn and no masturbation.
You're doing the whole thing?
I'm doing the whole thing.
So we're both on this together.
Yes, it's time to disrupt.
Okay, man.
All right, here we go. Hands off the cock. Oh, boy.
Hey, did you get something of value out of this podcast? If so, I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you be so amazing as to go over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and a review? Your ratings and reviews can show someone who's just discovered our podcast for the first time that we are worth listening to. And that way we can reach a wider audience. So please head over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a rating and review. You rock.